Welcome back to Tower Casuals Guardians, the Destiny podcast. I am your host, Josh, and joining me yet again for another installment of the Reign of Terror is the Warlock Wizard himself, NerdGeneralist.
The Warlock Wizard, that's a little redundant, I think, isn't it?
It is, but I couldn't think of anything catchy on the spot.
I'm glad that
we can agree on one thing. No Titans this week. Titans are not allowed.
Boo!
We're here on a few fronts. Number one, we weren't getting anywhere, okay? We couldn't do better than Joe. And we're talking all about Guardian games tonight. And I didn't need any Titans coming in here pumping their chests loudly King Kong style when we all know the games last year were absolutely rigged in their favor.
You know that if A1 Johnny was here, that we would have never heard the end of how.
Dude, I haven't heard about the end of it for the last year straight. He is the one person, both IRL and like on the internet, that I have seen actually care about the results. John, I want you to know that we absolutely love you, though. I hope you guys win so I can go teabag that statue for another year.
Where is the statue, by the way?
They took it away. They removed it. They took it away so they can award it to the new winners.
I think they should have just kept it up there and then just like added additional ones on and just make spots on the Titan side right next to Zavala for the next 5-10 years, however long this goes on.
It was significantly smaller than I thought it was going to be. I thought it was going to be big and like in the middle of the fucking courtyard for like a year.
Smaller than you were expecting, huh, Josh? Oh,
it was micro. It was a micro statue.
Listen, there's a reason why Titan shoulder pads are so big. They're compensating for something.
They're overcompensating for that tiny ass trophy. Anyways, as we said, we are talking all about the Guardian games tonight. We're going to go into seasonal events as part of our continuing endgame and rewards series. We had originally planned to talk Grandmasters, but I did some slight miscalculations, and Grandmasters don't open completely until next week, where all of them are available. So we will be back to talk about Grandmasters next Thursday night. But for now, Nerd, do you have any notable drops you got this week? If not, no pressure.
I want to take a look at my inventory. So I'll be honest, I did not have one prepared. So if you have one in mind and would like to go first, Josh.
Okay, yeah, so I mean, I have one. I, of course, the never-ending quest for me to get commemoration from the Deepstone Crypt it's still ongoing. Yet another run with no success, and I don't have enough spoils in order to buy a crate for a chance at it. Very upset that I still don't have the LMG. I got Eyes of Tomorrow, the full armor set, etc., all before I got commemoration.
I just don't understand how you haven't got. I mean, I literally have like 6 of them in my vault.
I have earned no shit at least 7 bequests out of the final encounter.
I have as well, and I've broken each one of them down.
Yeah, that is the only thing I got to drop for about my first 7 or 8 runs. Then I finally got the helmet to drop, and we did 2 runs in one night because I ran it on my Hunter, got the helmet to drop finally. Then when I ran into my Warlock is when I got the Eyes of Tomorrow to drop. And I just absolutely ecstatic. Absolutely ecstatic.
I was there, Josh. I remember when you got Eyes of Tomorrow, and I remember you rubbing it in for the next 3 days straight.
Hey, at least it was only 3 days, okay? I didn't rub a trophy in everybody's face for 9 months.
That's true.
But no, mine is I got a new role on Trustee. I'm still in the phase where I've only gotten a couple of roles, so I'm still trying to find that perfect one. But I got a great PvE one that I'm really, really enjoying, and it's Redirection.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the other perk that I have on it, but Redirection is a perk that allows you to store up energy for each red bar that you kill.
Mm-hmm.
And it stores the energy until you shoot at an elite or boss level enemy, and it basically unleashes however many stacks you have. I've gotten it up to like 26, I think.
Wow.
Maybe a little bit higher. And it's a pretty solid shot when it happens. I'm not going to go and be like, oh my god, it's the greatest thing, because Trustee doesn't necessarily hit hard, it just hits really fast. It's definitely more of a PvP gun for me.
I've
But
only gotten one gun. I think I have one posterity that has redirection on it, and I haven't really played around with it too much.
it's a cool perk. A lot of people talk about it, and I think it's because it's not really on a whole lot of great PvE weapons right now. But I'm hoping this is one they play with a little bit more in Vault of Glass. So
Yeah, I
really,
can't
really,
wait.
I want this on. I would say I want it on like an SMG, but it doesn't work like that. I'd like to see it go to a sniper rifle or a fusion rifle, personally.
Fusion could work if you have something that, like, man, if you had a fusion that could do some like dragonfly and redirection.
If you had a fusion rifle that could do redirection with the oh god, what's the perk that they're revamping for next season that we talked about last week? If you could stack those, basically, if you could put it on Loaded Question 2.0, that would be an absolute monster of a gun.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Because I mean, on a sniper, you're probably not going to be smacking too many rank and file enemies with a sniper.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting perk, but I think it needs a buff, or it needs to be fleshed out just a little bit more. It's the first time I've gotten a gun with it on it, though, so really enjoying using that.
That's good. Yeah, that sounds like one I need to play around with a lot more.
Hit me if you got one. Hit me.
I got a couple rolls of Steady Hand from Iron Banner. I mean, my favorite one that I've gotten so far. I'll be honest. I think it was a repeat. I think I've gotten one. It was just like with a little bit better of a sight perk on it. I've got Steady Hand with True Sight, Ricochet, Quick Draw, and Snapshots. I mean, for 120s in the kinetic slot, I mean that's as good as you're gonna get, man. There's a reason why that gun is a meta piece in the PvP game right now. It's just brutal, dude. It's
a great gun. Great gun.
But not too many crazy rolls this week. I'll be honest. I was on a couple times, just really trying to grind out a couple weekly things. I wasn't really looking for too many rolls this week.
Yeah, I think we talked about this with Joe last week, that we've all kind of pulled back. It's the end of the season. I'm gonna play a little bit of Guardian games, but I'm probably even gonna be pretty detached during this. Just because I really want to hit next season like hard and heavy when the new narrative starts coming out, and especially Vault of Glass coming in those hopefully first couple of weeks.
I'm still hoping to, once Grandmasters open back up next week, to hammer down and try to get a good palindrome roll, since we didn't really dive too deeply into the Proving Ground strike when that was out.
Oh my god.
Which we'll talk about that at some point, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, I'm gonna be hunting a palindrome here pretty soon.
We got plenty of strikes that'll be good to do it in between Warden of Nothing, Devil's Lair, and Arms Dealer. Right. So plenty of great chances to get rolls on that. I believe Adept is up next week. It's going to be our last chance for the season.
Gonna go for it, man. Gotta get one.
Yeah. I'd like to get one, even though I'm not a big user of Palindrome. I'm just here for the mods at this point. I would like to get an Adept Swarm, just because I really feel like LNGs are due for a buff soon.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to get one of those, but I like my regular Swarm as it is. We both have the exact same role.
I wonder what the catalyst is for Bungie to do an LMG update. I don't feel like LMGs are really on their radar right now.
I think that it may come. If it doesn't come this season, it has to come by the final season before Witch Queen, because LMGs, just with the exception of like Hammerhead and Thunderlord, were never really a major like option for anything, even in the end game. Like, it was really Thunderlord was about it, and you still had to usually pair it with something else.
I miss Thunderlord a lot. I
love it. It's still, I maintain it is a top 5 funnest game to use, or funnest gun to use in the game.
I remember going through Last Wish when Thunderlord came out and just like experimenting on Cali with it, and just realizing that it was just an absolute menace for boss damage. Before the initial nerf of it, where they really brought down the single target damage on it.
I think LMGs are kind of in a weird place, because if you go and nerf them, or you go and buff them, you have to probably apply that buff specifically around Xenophage. Like, Xenophage is really I think that's part of why LMGs are in such a rough spot, right? Because they had to bring that gun up, which brought all LMGs up, and then they're like, oh shit, what have we done? And then they nerfed them. Xenophage nerfed is still one of the best damaged guns in the entire game.
Yeah. Well, we've seen that. We've seen that sort of pattern where when they buffed rockets this season, they tuned all of the exotic rockets differently. So that sort of
it's really the only, like, if you're doing an across the board nerf or buff, it's really the only endgame weapon I feel like you can't touch right now because it's the most accessible for a long range option for most players to go get. It is still a challenge to get it, but it's not like balls breaking hard to get it. It's not like, oh, we're trying RNG or I have to save 240 spoils to buy Anarchy or anything like that. Like, it's something you can go get from a quest still. The moon isn't sunset. The quest for it isn't sunset. It requires you to think, but you have to go in and do Pit of Heresy, and that's about it. You have to go do a special room in there, and if you don't know what you're doing, you're gonna get screwed. But it is a really fun gun to get. Like, single shot machine gun. Who would have ever thought that we'd still be sitting here using this?
I remember when Shadowkeep dropped and that came out, and everybody that I know started getting it. I didn't get it right out of the gate, and they're like, "What in the hell do I do with this?" Because at first, the damage on it was bad. It wasn't good right out of the gate, right?
No, it wasn't.
If I remember,
it had about a third of its full power, and that was it.
And everyone was like, "What the hell is this thing? It's a machine gun." We're coming off of the like Thunderlord era where and Hammerhead, where those guns were at the top of their game, and now we get this thing that's just chunk, 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 and it's barely denting bosses. And then they've completely flipped around. I think it's a success story. I think Xenophage is a good example of a success story of a weapon that they started out really bad with, and they were able to tune, and it became very successful.
Absolutely, and I think that's why they're not going to really touch it. It feels like it's in a balanced place. Even if you're dumping Xenophage into bosses, it's still not a gimme. Now, when you pair it with something like Divinity, then that's when you're doing that major damage. But it's in a pretty solid place, I think, overall.
I agree.
I'm not even I'm not running it in some of the endgame content. Obviously, a lot of people run it still in Deepstone. If you don't have Anarchy, that's probably your best shot in there for a heavy. But sure. Let's go ahead and let's dive into this TWAB real quickly. It is really all Guardian games here. I cannot emphasize that enough. So Guardian games start at reset on Tuesday. If you play last year, and if you've listened to me talk about this at all, this is my all-time least favorite thing that they have ever done for a seasonal event. I cannot describe how terrible this was if you did not play last year. This is an absolutely abysmal event. It was terrible. It was a bounty farming simulator, and it came in the middle of inarguably the worst season of Destiny we've had since Forsaken came out. I would argue since Curse of Osiris, it was the lowest point of Destiny.
Which season was that, Josh? Was that Season of the Dawn?
That's Season of the Worthless.
So before you get into your rant, I do have a question. Which season which seasonal event would you rather play through? This will tell me just how much you actually hate this. Would you rather play through last year's Guardian games or last year's Festival of the Lost? Which one would you rather play through?
Oh God, Festival of the Lost.
Oh man.
Because Festival of the Lost was an actual event. Guardian games was something that took place out in the world, and it didn't really feel like we were doing anything other than it was who could farm the most bounties. There was a handicap on hunters because of how many hunters there are. And it was really, really aggravating for a lot of us, I think, like how things were weighted. But on top of that, it just wasn't fun. There was no incentive. It seems like we're changing things up this year. Another new addition to the event this year is the Strikes playlist. It's standard Vanguard Strikes, but it's going to group you together by class. This is something A1 Johnny and I were talking about last year that we really wanted to see was an emphasis on playing with your class, especially because you're expected to collect the laurels for members of your class. And it's just like, how many times do you really have multiple hunters running an activity? Almost never, unless it's PvP.
Right.
So go ahead.
I was gonna say I think this is a really cool addition. I think it will be fun for the first few days of the event. I really was. I'm kind of bummed that there's not other other changes to the playlist in some way, like adding some kind of modifier or something that would make the actual strikes themselves a little more interesting.
We actually do have modifiers.
Oh, did I miss that?
You did. There's a whole paragraph on modifiers, which we're going to get into right now.
Ooh.
This new playlist will have gameplay modifiers added based on the previous day's class standing. Classes will get a beneficial modifier tied to gold, silver, and bronze placement. Gold. Health, shields, and recovery are increased. Kinetic weapons will deal more damage. Silver. Melee will recharge faster. Elemental damage increased from guardian sources. And more heavy ammo available. Bronze. Grenade abilities deal more damage and recharge much faster. And elemental damage will be increased from guardian sources.
Well, as a warlock, I'm looking forward to many days with the bronze modifier.
I mean, I think hunters are going to learn what it's like to actually have a grenade, so it'll be nice for all of us.
Yeah.
There are negative modifiers as well, though. The gold class will get 2 modifiers, and silver class will get 1. So for Titans, if you finish in bronze, combatant melee attacks will deal more damage. If you finish in silver, combatant melee attacks deal significantly more damage.
Oh God! Can you
bronze and silver for warlocks? Increased damage, incoming damage increased while airborne, and it goes up when you hit silver. Hunters are getting once again the short end of the stick. I want to be really clear here. Radar is disabled for bronze.
Who uses their radars?
No. This is where it gets great. Silver. Radar is disabled, and combatants don't flinch when damaged. That's some absolute horseshit. Silver classes get only the modifier from the bronze class below them. Gold classes get a combination of both. Thematically, we are going for an experience where the Guardian Game Strike playlist is the venue for players hoping to jockey their class's podium placement, as it will be one of the most efficient ways to earn laurels. So on paper, I really like this. I'm going to enjoy this, again, like you said, for a couple of days. I'm going to enjoy it. I think that this is a great idea because this is kind of taking the spirit of what the Revelry used to be, except there we had like increased supers and everything else. That's last known as the time that Shards of Galanor reigned supreme. They nerfed it permanently after that event, and it's never recovered. Unless you play Mayhem.
Well, to be fair, I mean, it was... I used to main Hunter during the heyday of Shards of Galanor, and it was pretty broken.
Yeah, that I really hope. Like side tangent, I really hope that's like the first Hunter super that they revisit, because to me, it's the only Hunter super that needs revisited is Blade Barrage. In a positive way, it's really. I feel like the Hunters have really balanced supers right now for the most part across the board.
Spectral Blades really doesn't have a good spot in PvE. I know it's
PvE, but that's okay. I don't think everything should be usable in PvE and PvP.
That's fair.
I do think I think it has a spot in seasonal and like mob based events, but at that point, why wouldn't you just run Arc Staff?
Yeah, I mean, in every way for PvE content, Arc Staff is dominant.
Mm-hmm. Arc Staff is dominant, or I mean, you're running Celestial Nighthawk if it's high end, or Tether or something. I don't know. I'd like to see that get a buff, but I like what they're going for here. I feel this is going to make me engage with the event at least for a couple of extra days, rather than just popping in, doing my bounties, getting my Bright Dust, and bouncing out. Mm-hmm. I'm actually going to play some.
Mm-hmm.
And I like. So here's another thing that they're changing a lot of things this year. You will receive a medal case from Evil Levant to store your hardware until you're ready to visit the podium. Once you have the maximum medals for a certain type in your case, go turn them in, as any more earned for that type will be lost. Turning in medals gives you a chance at receiving an event package depending on the medal type. I'm very curious to see what happens when you turn in those platinum medals. Like, I would think that they're going to guarantee some prisms or something.
I mean, there's a really good opportunity here, especially with a late season activity to capitalize on the fact that players are really only going to be logging on for a certain amount of time each week to do some of the core activities for this event. And a lot of players at this point are trying to gear up and trying to build up some currencies for next season. I think you're hitting the nail right on the head. They need to offer cores, prisms, shards, even.
I would like upgrade modules
galore.
to be a big part of this.
Upgrade modules to help you stack up for the next season. Although I think upgrade modules probably won't have as much of a such of a need for those next season. Well, with only being 10 points.
With it only being 10 points, but I think if you give those out kind of like free candy, it allows you to get more things up to a reasonable level, especially if you're going to go for that day one Vault of Glass raid.
What's really going to piss me off, Josh? What's really going to piss me off is if I turn in whatever the highest level package is and I get 3 blues.
Oh, I guarantee you it's going to happen. I absolutely guarantee you. Or you're going to get another fucking extraordinary rendition or something.
They need to give us things. I'm begging Bungie at this point. Think about what players are doing and what they're looking for this late in the season and give us those things.
I think it would behoove Bungie to look at things that we're chasing. So like a lot of people are chasing that God rolled Code Duello right now. Make the seasonal weapons a part of this. Make the stuff that we're getting out of the Emerald Ingrams part of this, because I'll tell you something. I've stopped turning mine in. I have now reached the point that I did during Arrivals where I just don't give a shit anymore.
Oh, they're just shards to me at this point.
Yeah, they're shards to me. I have rolls on literally everything I want. Now, granted, I play more than the average player, but I got rolls on everything I wanted by about week 3 or 4 in the season, with the exception of Code Duello. And I'm not, I want to go for some of these guns that I like with that 3rd column perk in it, but I'm not going to sit there and spend 5 hammer charges on it. It's simply not worth it. If this event is going to stick around for the rest of the year, I think they need to severely nerf how much it takes to get a tier 3 Engram decoded. Right. Especially because we already know the recaster is sticking around past this season. Like, if you're going to keep dropping Umbrals, for the current season and for past seasons, nerf the requirement from the past season stuff. Like, I finally got a Code Duello to drop the other night when we did some activity. I don't remember if you were with me. I think I actually might have gotten it out of Presage when I ran it with Colonel Panic the other day. I finally got a Code Duello to drop with Lasting Impression on it.
Yep, and
I damn near ran out of my apartment screaming.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I once again, I think Bungie did a fantastic job on the seasonal weapons this season.
Yep.
They gave us some weapons that are truly meaningful. They gave us some perks that are truly meaningful. But
God Almighty, a threaded needle is not the new Edge Transit.
Oh, dude, it is.
I'm so tired of getting that gun. Like, this is why I stopped turning in my Umbral Ingrams, because every single time I turn them in to get a rocket launcher or a linear fusion, I turned in 8 in a row for that category. I got 8 threaded needles in a row. That should not happen.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot they could do with this. I don't foresee them doing anything really unique with this, but in the future, I think there's a lot of cool things they could do with rewards, like from out of these events, like doing weapons that we've gotten for the season, but with special shaders on them, like similar to what they do with the Adept weapons.
Well, I want to hold this thought, and I want to circle back to it in about 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, sounds good.
Yeah, I want to circle back to it because we're going to talk extensively about seasonal events once we get through the Guardian Games changes. You have a contender card this year. Ways to earn points for your team called contender cards. You'll be able to pick these up from Eva in exchange for laurels and can have one active at any time. Completing objectives in Strikes, Crucible, and Gambit will grant a gold medal upon completion. There's also a special platinum card that will focus on completing Nightfalls, Rival, and Trials. This is the only way to earn platinum medals. Completing a platinum card will earn you all-star status and a special reward at the podium ceremony. Complete your platinum contender card before daily reset on Friday if you want to lock in your all-star status for the weekend. Now, this is where I think you're going to get people incentivized, and I'm 100% doing Nightfalls to get these. Third place classes, you'll be able to show off a glow from your class item depending on your class's standing that week. Third place gets a bronze glow. Second place, a silver glow. First place is a gold glow. All stars will receive a platinum glow. That is awesome.
It is cool.
I want to see what these glows look like.
I'm curious as to why they didn't place raids into this. I think there's a really good opportunity to tie in because isn't there a triumph for Deepstone Crypt that requires you to go in with all characters of the same class, or is that?
Yes, there's always one where you have to do it with all members of the same class, and there's one called Clan Night as well. Where
That would have been a really good opportunity to lure people in to go get that triumph if they haven't done so already, is to do one of these platinum contender cards that involve you going into a raid with all of your classmates. That would have been kind of sweet too.
I think that'd be cool. I think part of the problem is there's really only one raid that is accessible right now. I think when they revisit this next year, assuming that you have Vault of Glass, Deepstone, Last Wish, Garden, and whatever the Savathun based raid is, you would have so many more options. I think that's when you add it in. Mm-hmm. Just do it with all members of any one of those raids, because each raid has a title that is tied to it, and this is one of those, I believe, for each of those. I don't think it's something special just for Deepstone.
Okay.
I think that would encourage you to play with members. But again, I think you'd have people going, "Oh my god, it's so much," which is true. It's so much harder doing this as all hunters. Like, I can't tell you the amount of times people have moaned and groaned, "Oh, there's more than 2 hunters. This is going to be terrible." Like, listen.
See, that's the one time I think the Warlock class actually stands out, because that's where I think we shine is in end game PvE content.
without a doubt. And they're going to be throwing a special final weekend closing ceremony in a tower that will be live from the 7th to the 11th of May to celebrate the winning class. As with any event, there's new loot to grab. At the start of the event, you will get a new class item from Zavala. These are required to participate in the games. Your old class items will not work for this event, even though they still look cool. So obviously, there's a glowing class item for each, it seems. These look really cool to me. I like these.
I guess you guys in the other classes aren't used to having glowing class items. I guess that's something that as a Warlock,
I'm a hunter.
we take
I'm
for
not
granted.
used to glowing class items. You're absolutely correct.
I've got glowing class items out the wazoo. This isn't special for me, but I do appreciate that you guys are finally getting to see what it's like to wear LEDs on your bodies.
Yeah, dude. All I'm thinking about is make it. I think I'm looking at the Eververse items right now. That's what I'm seeing. I'm just imagining being able to take that cloak and throw it on my Deepstone Crypt armor set. That's already glowing and has LEDs on it, and I think that would look really cool with it.
I really think the hunters lucked out in this seasonal set. I think you guys have possibly the first or second best looking set of the three.
I think we have the best looking. I actually really don't hate the Warlock set as much as I thought I would. I really like that chest piece. I'm not gonna lie.
You know what I wish the direction they would have leaned into this. I just want to be a fucking Power Ranger. Like, that's kind of the direction they went with this. I just want to be a gear set that looks like a fucking Power Ranger, because I think that would be sweet. I don't know. Maybe that's overly nerdy, but
I like that they're giving us a Sparrow as well. I mean, I don't hate this Sparrow. I don't hate how this looks. I think it actually looks kind of cool. It's basic, but hey, it's being given away for free during an event. Okay. As we mentioned earlier, there's an emblem that you can get for free for participating in the event. You can earn Heir Apparent, and you can earn the Catalyst for it. So I'll go in and earn the Catalyst. I mean, why wouldn't I?
For all of you kids that haven't gone brrr yet this year.
Pretty much. Can we talk about how fucking goofy the ornament is for this? It looks like a fucking Fisher Price gun.
It does look pretty bad. I'm not a big fan of it.
Baby's first LMG from Fisher Price.
I mean, I don't know. I really feel like they were just like, all right, on all of the stuff this year, we're just gonna slap the 3 colors on everything, and that's kind of it.
To be fair, I don't hate this. I don't hate the design. I just think it looks goofy as fuck on this particular gun.
It does look But the gun itself also looks kind of weird. It's got the weird, like, elongated barrels.
It's the fucking LMG from Valis Tarak, aka better known as Rocket's McDickface. And
wow.
Yeah, have you never heard him called that?
I mean, I think my expression speaks for itself, Josh.
This is a long running nickname on the subreddit and multiple discords I've been a part
Rocket's McDickface.
Rocket's McDickface.
Jeez.
And of course, no event is complete without Eververse ornaments. These Eververse, we have spent weeks making fun of them. We saw the. I have to say, with the shaders, these look significantly better.
We're talking about the. Okay, yeah, we're talking about
the fucking tracksuits. The tracksuits that are clearly teasing Sparrow Racing League, which has not been brought back for some inexplicable reason yet.
So there's kind of a cool thing that they sort of sneakily stuck in there. It said new tech allows us to achieve this change more easily, and the GG sets are a good example. So it seems like we're getting some improved shading technology on gear moving forward, which is
well, I mean that's what it says. At Beyond Light's release, we said we would be working to make future ornament sets more accepting of shaders. I think a lot of what they had, and I think this ties into Transmog as well. It's kind of a preview of what we can expect from that starting next season. That Titan set looks pretty great.
I really like the Titan set a lot.
I don't hate like I said, the Warlocks, I really like that chest piece.
No, I hate it.
It
looks like crazy. It looks like I'm about ready to hop on a horse and play some polo. I don't like it.
You're damn right, dude. I like it. And I mean, of course, I'm getting the Hunter set with my 75,000 Bright Dust just for that cloak.
You know what, Josh? Why don't you wait? Tell us how much Bright Dust you have one more time. I think
75,000. Okay. 75,000.
I didn't think the viewers had heard it the first time. I wanted to make sure
everybody heard. Can I get to 100K before Christmas?
Did you collect your 4,000 from the seasonal thing this year or this week?
I did. That's what got me back up to 75,000 because I bought a few ornaments this week.
Oh,
I finished out the Celestial set. I had to buy that sweet Divinity ornament.
Got a little spendy this week.
I spent 2,500. I got to calm down on my spending. I'm not a big fan of the rest of these cosmetics, like I am for most events. The ghost looks. This inflatable looking ghost looks ridiculous.
I saw one on Twitter where someone turned the water bottle into a G Fuel thing. Like into a container of G Fuel. And it's gonna be gamer subs. Oh god. Any of those. It's ridiculous. I think it's hilarious.
It's so bad. Just like it just says glad across it.
To go back, I actually don't mind the ship. The ship looks kind of there are two ships. From what I'm seeing from the TWAB.
So I like the really pointy one. I don't mind that.
Yeah, I like that one. I don't care for the other one. You're right. I like the pointy one. The tennis balls kind of gross.
The Sparrow is bland as fuck.
Yep.
Don't like that. I don't like the second ship. The tennis ball. I'm going to be clear. The tennis ball ghost is fine. I don't hate it.
No, it's not.
But I have plenty of other like novelty ghosts at this point that I like way better.
Give me the cat ears or bust. I don't want a tennis ball.
You like cat ears or bust. I personally like mine looking like enemy types. So I've got the little Vex Harpy and the Cabal Shield Spiky Servitor. I've got all those in my rotation. But I mean, if we're doing goofy ghosts, it's Indiana Jones all the way, baby.
There was the one on the Eververse this week. I think it's the Kit Bash one where it's like all the ghosts like welded together.
I have that one.
That one's, I mean, it's awful. I would never actually use it, but I think it was always really funny to run across.
The flavor text of it is hilarious to me for ghosts barely keeping it together.
Oh man, I think we all have felt that at some point this year.
Bungie Rewards, of course, has up. They have new stuff as they do with every event. They have a track jacket, which if this is not fleece, I'm actually interested in it. If it's fleece, I have no interest whatsoever. I don't entirely. I like the back. I don't really like the front. You can pick your class on it. That's cool.
I mean, Bungie finally gave us. They know that everybody is staying home.
Yeah.
I think we needed this maybe a year ago. Bungie should have just given us a full sweatsuit.
They gave us the ultimate in dad attire.
Hey, wait a minute. Okay, I'm a dad. I take offense to that, and I wore pants today. Okay, some of us are out here trying to
listen. As I told Colonel Panic, I have home sweats and I have going out sweats. Those are my two types of pants right now.
I like these. I like the tracksuit. I think it's cool that you can put your class patch on it. I like the design on the back.
Nerd's gonna wear it to the fucking zoo with his kids.
You know it. You know it.
I like the gold medals that you can get. I'm a big fan of this.
I think they should have something that goes around your neck. I think they should come with some kind of ribbon that goes around your neck. I think you should be able to wear them.
I think that would be pretty great too, frankly. I'm looking at the silver versions. I like how the silver ones look better, actually.
And then, Josh, you could wear your medal, go home, and brag to your dad that you won something. He would have no idea what kind of competition this was. Dad, I won Guardian games. Look, what's a Guardian?
I tried to explain to my family the thrill of earning the Deep Stone Crypt raid jacket at Thanksgiving dinner, and I think I was damn near kicked out of the house. My dad just looked at me. He's like, he literally looked at me. He goes, "Wow, unemployment's treating you well, isn't it?" It's like, gee, thanks, Dad. I thought it was cool. Of course, there's emblems you can earn galore. I really like the Guardian Games emblem. I like the seasonal challenge emblem.
Yeah, I like both those. I think they look good. I think it's a nice contrast too. One's really bright, one's really dark.
Mm-hmm. I like the changes they're making to Guardian Games. I don't know if it's going to be a better event. We're obviously going to have to play it to find out. But in principle, on paper, this is miles better than what last year's was, which is just finish the most fucking bounties you possibly can and go grind out Altars of Sorrow for hours on end.
So, and correct me if you plan to talk about this in some other section of the show tonight, but like, do we want to go into why Guardian Games is just kind of not a good idea in concept to begin with, or why maybe it wasn't executed well last year? Like,
yeah, let's get through this last part of the TWAB, and then we're gonna get into the good, the bad, and the ugly of not just Guardian Games, but of a lot of these seasonal events that you constantly hear us bitching about.
All right.
They say last month we held a vote on which armor ornament set the community wants made for Festival of the Cost. We have a list of 12 exotics that we could choose from on here. Crimson, Fighting Lion, Graviton Lance, La Monarch, Merciless, Risk Runner, Skyburner's Oath, Sunshot, Sweet Business, Telesto, Trinity Ghoul, and Vigilance Wing. I already filled mine out. I personally voted for La Monarch, Trinity Ghoul, and I believe Graviton Lance was the other one I voted for.
Mm-hmm. I'm torn on this list because I want to vote for weapons that maybe don't have a good place right now, like because or they haven't got some cosmetic love in a long time. But then again, I'm probably never going to use those weapons. So why would it matter?
That's kind of where I went from. So La Monarch does not have an ornament at all, to my understanding.
Correct. Yes.
Trinity Ghoul has a couple, but they're just dog shit. They just changed the color of it, basically. There's really no good bow ornament in the game other than Leviathan's Breath. Right.
Yeah. I think La Monarch for me is definitely the biggest one of these in need of a good cosmetic buff.
Absolutely.
Crimson's got a good few of them.
So Vigilance Wing has some excellent ones.
I see. That's true. I guess I'm trying to remember what some of those are. There's
like three. Some of these have like 3 or 4 ornaments, and I'm not exaggerating. Risk Runner has several good ones.
Sunshot's got good ones. Yeah, so I think La Monarch, I think I'm going to go with Graviton Lance as well. I think they should just give Telesto the most ridiculous, broken ass cosmetic that they could possibly think of.
I almost went Telesto, and I changed my mind at the last second and went to Graviton Lance because Telesto just got that sweet Last Wish themed ornament, Queen's Court themed.
Yeah,
It's
I
literally
know.
called Long Live the Queen. I love that. It's one of the cleanest looking ornaments in the game.
What if I'm gonna go in the very memey direction for
Mm-hmm.
Telesto? What if they either give it something that's just like a giant, like canceled, has like some kind of canceled emblem on it, like the red circle with the strike through it, or they just give it like whatever the blank placeholder uh like texture would be on a weapon, because like it
Uh-huh.
breaks the game so
A
frequently.
rapid and caution tape.
Yes, that's even better. That's what I'm gonna pick, Telesto, and I want it to be just wrapped in caution tape.
I think there's a lot that you can do here. So
Oh, that was
man,
good.
I don't know. Anyways, go vote. They said they'll share the results in a future TWAB. If it's anything like last year, they're gonna or like last month, they're gonna give us the results next week. So very curious to see what wins here. They acknowledge the Fighting Lion cult, which I sincerely hope does not win.
So I'm actually looking at the survey right now that you could take for that. And I was just expecting a list of the weapons to pick, but they actually ask which class do you consider your main character in Destiny 2? And
Yep.
then which weapon is currently your favorite? I'm assuming they mean like weapon, not necessarily in that list. It's interesting they're asking for those two pieces.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a poll on exotic armor next, most likely
Mm-hmm.
for your classes. Which, God, please give us a good one for Orpheus Rigs. Just please, God. It's all we want. We have two really cool ones for Celestial Nighthawk, but a lot of our others are really lacking.
Wait, you don't want to wear a ghillie suit, but just from the waist down?
No, it's the worst. It's the fucking worst. All right, let's go ahead and get into our main topic tonight, which is going to be about seasonal events, the good, the bad, and the ugly of them. We've talked pretty extensively about seasonal events. We talked about the yawning. We talked about Festival of the Cost as those finished, and we sung the praises of last year's Moments of Triumph slash what's the God? What's the one they always do in the summer? The Solstice of Heroes.
Yeah.
We sung the praises of that. And for me, I thought that was going to be a big point after how bad Guardian Games was last year, and then Festival of the Lost was recycled, likely because they wanted to focus on doing Beyond Light, and that's fine. If that's really the reason, I'd prefer you come out and say it though, and not
Mm-hmm.
just lead us to assume it. The
Mm-hmm.
Dawning, I thought I quite enjoy the Dawning. I know a lot of people don't. I enjoy the cookie baking. I think of all the mundane shit you could make me go do, baking cookies and taking them to NPCs is about the most enjoyable thing. And let's be honest, who has not enjoyed delivering a cookie to Riven?
I'm sorry. Do you enjoy giving cookies to Shah Han, Josh?
No, Shah Han got one cookie because he was required to for a triumph, and then he never got visited again. That bitch, I ate all his cookies.
I did like the fact that they made you give him blueberry cookies.
That was great.
super
I
clever.
love the names of the cookies too. They're always tied to whatever it is. Like, who is it? I think heiresses are like cookies of ill fortune or something.
Yeah.
Um,
The Riven cookie was a good addition this year too. By the way, I
the
like
the
that.
ribbon cookie was in last year.
Was it?
Yes,
Huh. I must have.
it was in 2019. It was in. Yeah,
Huh. I must have
yeah,
forgot.
yeah.
Either I didn't play through that as desperately as I thought I did, or I just missed it.
It's fun. I like the cookie baking event. I like the oven mechanic. I want to see an evolution of that. I think this next year. That is so of the events that need to be updated. Guardian games sorely needed to be reworked, and I think they've really hit it because last year we said we were going to get into why it needed to be reworked. It was so many bounties. That was about the only way to get the medals consistently. It was terrible. It was bad. There was like no tangible way to see what you were contributing. And it was like, oh, look, like the flags are moving really arbitrarily. Like, all right, after day 3, it was like, who really gives a shit? Who's actually doing this? This is not fun at all. Nobody likes grinding out this many bounties in a season that literally the only thing we had to do was bounties and a public event. That was Seraph Towers for those keeping track at home.
I mean, anytime that Bungie leans into bounties too much. I mean, we've seen several events that are like this, that are based on this concept. It just never goes well. I mean, nobody wants to do the same 5 bounties over and over and over again.
No. And that's why I'm saying that I don't mind how they do the cookies, because when you do the bounties there, at least you're getting cookie ingredients, so maybe some of the harder to get ones. And your repeatables are literally just make cookies for these people.
Well,
And it's so easy.
On the subject, I think it kind of ties into it. I think some events are usually some kind of exploration of a concept for other content, which I think that's what the oven kind of served as. It served as the beginnings of what became the chalice, didn't it? The
oven was a test run, and I remember when the chalice came out, they're like, "We were so relieved you guys like this because we were terrified you weren't going to."
Yeah,
and I still think the chalice is one of the most unique things that they've done. It was usable long past that. The lure, on the other hand, from Season of the Hunt was just so convoluted in how to use it that I didn't enjoy it.
Well, it took targeted loot and it made it not targetable. To be fair, I mean, it's like it randomized targeted loot, which defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah, and I mean, so we look at something like Season, like the Dawning. The actual event doesn't. There's nothing different, like in strikes or out in the world or anything. You're earning cookie ingredients. You're dropping them off the NPCs. I like all that, but I think what I like more is that the rewards actually felt kind of good during this one. There were community objectives. Now, granted, they were absolutely absurd, and they had to be nerfed on the back end because we weren't going to finish it. But I think giving everybody packages that gave you guaranteed emotes, ships, sparrows, and stuff from previous dawnings, as well as giving cores, shards, and golf balls, that was huge. I think that is how you do community participation, and I really hope that these weekend ceremonies, these medal ceremonies they do for Guardian games are reflective of that as well. I think that was really, really cool. You could jump in at any time in the event and get the previous things that had been done. I went 3 weeks without logging in, I think, during all that over Christmas break while I was playing Cyberpunk and Valhalla, and I logged in to get all my stuff, and it just gave me all those packages at once. It was fantastic to see.
The thing that I liked about Festival of the Lost this year and the Dawning this year is it did give you an opportunity to kind of catch up on the rewards of the previous years, including the armor sets or the ornament sets, from the Eververse as well. Those were available for you to purchase again. Because now that I think about it, I didn't play during last year's Dawning for whatever reason. I think I was taking some time off.
I'm gonna die on this hill. I like that the previous armor sets are earnable in Eververse. I think now with the shift to universal ornaments and transmog, those need to be random drops that can drop when you get these packages from Evil Levante for each event.
I'm 100% in that same camp too. I mean,
if it's an armor set that's been out for 2 years. So, for example, something that was earnable in let's say hypothetically, Guardian games happened 2 years ago in 2019. Or excuse me, the Revelry set from 2019, which has never been resold. You've never been able to get it again. That should be earnable in packages from Evil Levante now. If those were in there, I would grind the fuck out of this event to get some free armor.
I'm right there with you. I think again, if you hear me on this show complain about anything, it's give me the opportunity to grind for things that I want. And if there's an armor set and if you give me an activity and I know that I can get stuff by doing that activity enough times, I'm going to grind for it. So yes, I, from a high level perspective, I like that they gave us the opportunity, though we had to pay for it this year, to earn old gear stuff that we might have missed in previous seasons.
Right. And to be clear, I mean, so you used to earn the armor in year one, and I think even in Forsaken, you earned the armor from these events doing the actual event. They dropped from your double bright dusting or your double Eververse Ingrams. I would like to see that come back. Maybe not for every single event, but I think it would be really cool twice a year to see this come back. And I'm going to propose that it happens during Solstice of Heroes and during the Dawning. because
didn't
especially with the... Oh, go ahead.
Didn't the year one dawning have some big controversy around it regarding the gear set though, like where you can only get it from the Bright Engrams and they were really hard to earn?
I honestly have no idea because I don't think I did the dawning in year one, but I earned the armor the following year.
I earned the armor from year one because I paid for it, but I remember.
Yeah, that's bad. I have a feeling that was because that would have been Curse of Osiris time.
Mhm.
So I absolutely think that was a thing that happened. But the reason why I would suggest doing it during those two times is if you do it during solstice, that's about your halfway point, assuming they keep solstice in the summer. That's your halfway point of the year with the new release calendar that they're shifting to next year, with wanting to drop the expansions in Q1. And then that lets the dawning kind of be the end of your year. Be like, hey, the last 3 weeks of this year, we want to say thank you to you guys for playing our game all year. Here, double Engrams, double Eververse Engrams for this week, for these 3 weeks.
Yep.
I think that would be an excellent gesture by Bungie. Hell, you can even say these are legacy ones. You are guaranteed in these Engrams, you are guaranteed to get exotic ornaments, ships, and sparrows and ghosts only.
Just rain it on people. That's the end of the year is always a tough time for people trying to find time to play. Give them an opportunity to just get loot rained on them, and I think that
would be really cool, especially because as we add more and more cosmetics into the pool, it becomes harder and harder to get those things that you're still missing from those first few years. There's always new people joining. And for those of you who have everything, here you go. You get some extra bright dust. Whoop-de-fucking do. If you somehow own everything or have bought everything, because Lord knows there are people who have done that, here you go. But for everybody else, it's exotic cosmetics galore.
Josh, how much bright dust do you have again?
75,000, baby. 75,000.
Okay. On the Bosch Rush website, there needs to be a counter on the Tower Casuals page that just counts up how much bright dust you actually have. So that
we need to list. We need to list by transactions, like it's looking at your bank account. Like, what has he bought in bright dust? What did he put into the account this week? Corey, if you're listening to this, we need to get on this. This is. But I think you look at something like that. I think that would be really cool. That would fit with the whole motif of giving presents and things like that. I don't know, like just spice it up a little bit, because I don't think the cookie baking, it's feeling a little stale, but I don't know what else you really do for a Christmas event other than throw snow in every level, which I think would just be obnoxious. And wouldn't really fit.
So I don't want to get too broad with this, but I do think that we're approaching a time in Destiny's kind of life cycle where we're going to have to start taking a hard look at some of these events and saying, all right, what ones are nostalgic? What events do people really enjoy for the activities or whatever we're doing itself? And what do we need to revamp? So there are some of these seasonal events that we definitely need to just nuke and repave and start over and do something different with. But then look at some of these, maybe it's the Dawning. As a whole, do players really enjoy doing the same activities over and over each year? I think we really need to look at all these seasonal activities through a lens and decide, because at some point these are going to start getting old.
Well, one thing that I do like about the events in Destiny is, yes, they're tied to our real holidays, such as Crimson Days and Festival of the Lost and the Dawning. Those are obviously tied to Valentine's Day, Halloween, and Christmas, respectively. I like those because it allows those to exist in there without it feeling hokey, because they have established those as actual holidays in the game world, and there's actual lore behind those. That's why I think I enjoy the most. And to be fair, those are the 3 original. I think that's why they're so fleshed out. Those carried over from Destiny 1. Crimson Days has already been put on ice because they acknowledged it was stale.
I don't think I've ever played a Crimson Days and actually did anything with it.
I play it for about an hour each year to get the loot. I hadn't played it in a couple years, so I'm glad I did it last year, though, to earn everything, since there were exotic ornaments tied to it and everything else, since they now have put it on ice and everything presumably associated with it is now on ice. I'm glad I went ahead and did it. but that was one that really needed to be reworked. Had Guardian games not been reworked, at least on paper, it sounds great right now, you would have heard screaming from this community. Even when we heard it was coming back, we were like, oh God, here we go again. Today, I think I think it took away a lot of our fears as an overall community that, okay, thank God, this is not going to mar arguably one of the best 2 or 3 seasons we've had since the Forsaken relaunch. For me, it's pretty inarguable. This Chosen is up there with Arrivals and Opulence.
I think that the community is going to find a way to complain.
Oh, they absolutely are. Give it 48 hours into the event, and they'll be bitching and moaning. I've had to start tuning out so many of the Twitter threads and the Reddit threads because all it is just negativity. And it's like this with every online game. Like you and I have been watching the ongoing Outriders just fiasco. And I never thought that a community could make the Destiny community look tame, but here we are.
Well, I think there's definitely some crossover there. I think a lot of the Destiny community, especially the disenchanted, the disheartened people in the Destiny community are sort of looking for another home right now, and I think they're in the Outriders community, and you can kind of see some of the parallels there.
For sure. I think the next one that really needs to go on ice, if they don't completely revamp it this year, frankly, is Festival of the Lost. Festival of the Lost needs to take a nice long break because I cannot go back to the Haunted Forest again. I barely played the event last year. I was one of the ones who bitched and moaned about it. I was like, this is terrible. I've done this now 3 years in a row. I'm tired of it. Like, if you give us a space like that, I'm fine with you doing it 2 years in a row. Maybe you change it up a little in the second year. By the third year, that's given you 2 full years of data and of feedback. You need to change it by then.
Yeah, I think they kind of put themselves in a bad situation where they had to really lean on Festival of the Lost unexpectedly this year.
They did.
And I think it was one of the worst possible events for them to have to lean on because it was already very grindy as it was. We'd already done it a couple seasons ahead of that. The loot was never very didn't really inspire people to do a lot of content there. So I agree with you 100%. I think they've got to tear Festival of the Lost down and completely rebuild it. And if they don't, I will 190% skip it this year completely.
It was really disheartening though, after seeing how they changed up the Solstice event over the summer and how good Moments of Triumph was, encouraging you to go do all these raids and all these dungeons and these activities. It was really disheartening to see that Festival of the Lost is going to be exactly the same bullshit that we've dealt with for a couple of years. Like, there was a really cool armor set associated with it that you could get for each class, but you had to buy it. Like, you couldn't even earn it. Like, keep coming back to this thing of we want to earn the reward, the cool stuff, rather than have to buy it in Eververse. And I think that's a difficult line for developers to toe because you want to have things that people got to go buy. Like, the really wacky shit, I understand. Like, the tennis ball ghost, don't give me that. Make me go buy that, please. Like,
I guess I don't understand why it can't go both ways. Why you can't have it both available in the Eververse to purchase, and also have it available to grind for. Because, like, I'll be honest, like, what I like about some other games out there. What game did I do it with most recently? I think it was with Fallout 76. I got to nearly to the end of their seasonal card. And I just want to finish the season pass and be done with it. So I bought like the last 5 ranks that I needed. Like, if
they let you do that on the season pass here.
I agree, I know, but I'm talking about with like armor sets and stuff. Like, if I decide that I want to come in and just like buy the armor sets, I don't want to grind it. Like, I want to do that. I want the option to do that. But if you shouldn't also inflict that on everybody. Like, some people don't have the money. Some people just, they have a hard stance against microtransactions, have it both ways. I don't see any harm in having it both ways, right?
I think it's an instance of just wanting to make the money. And it's one of those situations where it's like, I don't blame them, but I also don't like it because I'm pretty anti-microtransaction myself. I'm one of those, like, I try to keep myself to only buying at most one thing per season with actual money. Because, like, for me, it's like, okay, I already spend money on the expansion and on the season pass every year, right? I don't want to buy everything in the store.
I think they should do it for one season and see how it really hurts their bottom line
Yeah.
and experiment with it. And certainly, don't use the season that you really count on that microtransaction income.
I feel like Guardian games would have been a perfect testing ground for this.
I think you're probably right, because rather than, like, if there were a couple choice pieces that I probably would have bought from the store and probably just skipped Guardian games altogether.
I would have too. And I think they kind of know that. Like, I would have 100% bought the cloak and just been like, fuck this, I'm not touching this event.
Yeah.
The other thing that I think really needs to change, so they've put Crimson Days on ice. But I think they're really trying to, with this new release schedule, it feels like they're trying to make sure they get a seasonal event in probably at the end of each season or close to the end of it. So, I mean, if you assume that, hypothetically, a new season starts in January, okay, you can have at the end of March, move Guardian games up to the end of March, for example. You can have the solstice at the end of that second season, right in the middle of summer, right as you would, and like Moments of Triumph is probably going to move to the Christmas season, honestly. But you have solstice at the end of summer, and then at the end of the next one, you'd be getting ready to move Festival of the Lost up a little bit, have it overlap between seasons if you have to. And then you've got the Dawning to close out the year with Moments of Triumph. I think that there's a really, really good strategy here, and I feel like that's what Bungie's trying to angle for. I want to say, with regards to revamping these activities, though, we could say this all year long, like, oh my god, you got to redo this activity, redo it. I would rather the resources, if they need them for the actual game or for the actual seasonal content I'm paying for, I would rather it be there than on a Halloween event or on a Christmas event. I would rather development time, art design, etc., go into the actual season. Like, I want seasons like Season of the Chosen every time. I want banger seasons. I would infinitely rather have that than some tacked on seasonal event because you want microtransactions, the event,
I agree with you. I think it's a weird challenge, because those seasonal events are often, and there's a reason why they're at the end of every season. It's to lure players back in and stretch that play time just a little bit longer than
works
probably
for me.
what it would be.
It works on me.
It does. I think I agree with you, and I think Season of the Chosen and Arrivals have really been like two seasons that we've seen them push the boundaries of what they can do with a narrative season, so to speak. But I would really like to see some of that spill over into the seasonal activity, because, like, I'm sorry, it's the seasonal event. The seasonal events always feel very disjointed, and I've always had a problem with, like, when Season of Arrivals, for example, we're literally watching the fucking darkness encroach on us, and we know that they're going to attack a couple planets in our system, and then we go play games and do Solstice of Heroes and stuff like that. Like, it always feels a little disjointed to me. I think there's maybe some tie-ins that they could do to work on that, but I think generally I agree with you. I'd rather have a really good narrative season rather than a good seasonal event.
The one I will die on this hill of that I would like to see every year is the Solstice. I think Solstice is the one thing that the loot, for me at least, the armor sets feel rewarding. They look good. With them being universal ornaments now, or being able to be transmogged, I think that's important. The Solstice armor this last year, with the cracks and the light coming through, is awesome. I love that armor.
Have a love-hate affinity for Solstice. And I would argue that it needs more, as much of a refresh as Festival of the Lost does, maybe a little less. And here's why. I'm going to go on a little tangent here. Solstice of Heroes, if you've only played one, maybe two rounds of it, it's not bad. It's unique. The armor is off, like you said, often very great. The tower is decorated. Like there's a bunch of cool stuff. It's got a nice progression. You start with one gear set, you have to power it up. Then you get the next gear set and you have to power it up. All the challenges are unique. But God, that is a grind. And it has been a grind, and they've made it a little bit better. But if you've done it every single year, and I guess I don't have to do that, I'm a sweaty, no-life gamer who's done it, it does get really annoying. Like this year, I didn't finish Solstice because I got to my last armor set, and I was like, I just can't do this another season. I can't do this another summer. Like, I can't grind 50 strikes to do this and do this thing.
I felt that. I really felt that because I says, if the armor looks exactly the same as it has the last 2 years, I'm not doing it. And then for me, it did a complete 180 this year. I loved the armor set. It was still a slog. I still did not finish the entire final armor set. But once you have the legendary armor, you can finish it whenever, I believe. Like I could even go do it now if I wanted to. It's just a matter of I really don't want to. I just want to get it made as ornaments and be done with it. But I think that's a good example of the armor's earnable in the event. The thing that they sold was the glow. And I cannot describe to you how much I hate armor glows. So it was perfect for me to not spend any money on it. But
you and I have the exact opposite mentality on it. I'm like, if I've grinded for 24 hours on this armor, I'm going to buy the damn glow.
Yeah, no, fuck that. Because I know me, I'm gonna look at the armor, I'm gonna wear it for a couple weeks because usually a new expansion is on the way. Had it ended on the ending of Arrivals and the ending of how Solstice and Moments of Triumph all came together, that would have been the best lead into an expansion we've ever had. Ever. And I think that's what Bungie's going for, is they want those moments. But they pitch the Dawning every year as this time for us to reflect on what's happened in the previous year and this and that. And I feel like that's kind of a natural point for you to close out, because it usually goes in the first week of January. Let that happen. Maybe push it back a little bit. Start it at Christmas and end it with the next expansion. I don't know. I think that there's plenty you can do here, but you need to be revamping one or two of these a year. And I don't think there's anything wrong with. God, I know I'm forming a summoning circle here. I never cared for it in Destiny 1, but everybody is asking for it to return. I think it would be something that desperately needs to happen. Could be a lot of fun. I don't know how many resources have to go into doing this. Bring back Sparrow Racing League in place of one of these events.
I love that concept. As somebody who didn't play Sparrow Racing League in Destiny 1, when I came into Destiny 1, it was either over or maybe you were still able to do it and nobody did it anymore. I can't remember.
It was always at a super inconvenient time. It was in the spring when nobody was playing because we'd gone without content drops for 8 months at this point.
I think even if you bring it back one time, I don't think it would hurt. I get it. That requires development and that's time you're doing something and you're not doing something else. But I think it would be good to see what that event could do, even if it's just one time.
I think they know the demand is there at this point. For me, the armor for Guardian games this year really feels like a subtle nod to Guardian or to Sparrow Racing League. It feels like they know. And this is kind of a lot of the armor sets in Eververse tend to be wink, wink, nudge, nudge towards future things. We had the whole Izanagi set last season, and now Ada's coming back into the storyline and will be the transmog vendor, for example.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like maybe I'm reading too much into it. Those look like fucking tracksuits, though. Those look like the racing suits from SRL.
So what if, man, I'm thinking about I'm kind of going back and thinking about revamping Guardian games and stuff. What if Guardian games was revamped at some point and they actually had different events for different Guardian competencies, so to speak? What if there was a Sparrow Racing was an event in Guardian games, or then there's marksmanship where you have to complete a specific strike where you only do damage on headshots or something. What if there were actually types of events within that rather than just grinding out laurels and doing strikes and blah blah blah?
Yeah, I like that idea too. Like make it like an actual Olympic thing. Like you only heal by sprinting or something along those lines. Like you have wacky modifiers, like
man,
or sprinting gives you an overshield. I don't
bring
know.
back a gauntlet like type thing where you have to run a race against other classes or against other people of your class.
I want Shaxx narrating it though. If you do it.
Absolutely. And yeah, having like Shaxx narrating everything and having maybe like, Saint kind of competing against him. Maybe so cool. It would be super cool to do that in a more like Olympic fashion rather than just like grinding the same playlist over and over.
Right. I don't know. I feel like this is a step in the right direction. Obviously, we're going to need to play the event to know. But the last thing I'd like to say that I think they need to bring back, and I'd love to see this infused with Moments of Triumph or with Solstice in the future. I don't know. Maybe you could split it between those. The Age of Triumph from the end of Rise of Iron leading into Destiny 2, when you can go back and do all the Destiny 1 raids, get brand new armor sets and armor ornaments. Those are universally considered to be some of the coolest looking armor sets of all time in this series. And I'm inclined to agree. I think they looked really, really awesome. It gave you reasons to go back and do these raids. I think you need incentives like this to get people to go back and do things. Like, for example, not many people want to do Last Wish or Garden anymore. You could add those to it to get them back in there. Even when they did the ornaments for the Leviathan raids, nobody really gave a shit because they didn't look that different. It just made your armor gold. Who cares? Like
and glow.
The holographic glows coming off of that year or the Destiny 1 Age of Triumph armor, so just or Age of Heroes, whatever it was called, was awesome.
Well, they sort of did this, or at least I guess the closest thing possible before they sunset the content in Season of Arrivals, where they're like, "Hey, guys, oh no, I'm saying build off that concept to bring this stuff back." Like,
right?
We know, we can see there's like an itch, a demand for it. I mean, that's how you and I met, was jumping in and doing all of the old raids again to try to get caught up for the raid ring event. I think that there's definitely an itch for it. I think if you brought it back with more context around it and more stuff you could earn around it, I think it would get a lot more people in there, because we saw it happen just for people trying to get caught up on loot they had missed before.
Yeah, I like it, and I've been a proponent of this for a little while now, that I feel like the armor from raids, I like that you get the normal drops, but I feel like the first time you get it to drop, it should also unlock as a cosmetic for you. Because I want to be able to wear my raid gear anywhere and not just like, oh, I have shitty stats, like I can only wear this in the raid or something like that. Like I want to be able to wear my deep stone armor anywhere. But I have gotten no good rolls on any of it. I've gotten like 60s at most.
Yeah, I got lucky and got a couple pieces that I worked into my normal gear set just so I could use the mod slots when I needed them. Yeah. But yeah, I agree. I mean, this will be coming with transmog, but they should have already had some kind of system in there for that.
I think that would be really good. But just, I guess, kind of to wrap up on this topic, I feel like we're starting to talk ourselves into circles here. I think the general consensus is we want more rewards for doing these. Like for me, the Dawning and Solstice were both positive steps. It's Solstice and Moments of Triumph, you earned so many fucking cosmetics. I earned several cool ghosts. The Shattered Traveler ghost is awesome. The armor set for me was cool. I like some of the emblems you got. The raid emblem, I mean, I'm still wearing that sucker in game. There were a lot of cosmetics there. There were some shaders tied to it. You know, we got a couple shaders. We got some sparrows, some ships tied to each of those. And like we said with Dawning, you got so many old cosmetics just given to you, right? I want to see that for each of these events. Like I've mentioned, Guardian games would be a great time to bring back some of those Dawning things that we've never seen again. We've never gotten the Dawning cosmetics back. We've gotten a couple of the ghosts, like the Ladybug ghost, I think, has come back. But I want to see those armor sets drop. I want to see those sparrows, those ships. There's some shaders tied to it. I want to see all that come back. I like it when an event has a legendary weapon tied to it. We got Glaciocasm back in the Dawning, and that's actually, fusions are in a rough place, but as far as fusions go, that's not a bad fusion. It's a really slick design.
I still get I get killed by it pretty frequently in PvP.
I do too. I get killed by it quite often, especially in Iron Banner. I get drilled by it. I like how they usually do an auto rifle for Festival of the Lost. This last year, I don't think they had a new weapon, but there you could get random rolls on Braytic Werewolf and on Horror Story, which was cool. I like seeing that. I wonder if there's gonna. I guess there's not gonna be a legendary weapon for Guardian games because they probably would have told us by now.
Yeah, they also didn't tell us that Glaciocasm was coming, did they?
We did know Glaciocasm was coming. They showed us the concept art for it.
Oh, yeah, I remember now. I remember.
Charity streams.
Yep.
So
maybe they'll sneak it in.
Maybe they'll sneak it in. I think that adds a lot to it too. Having a unique legendary that you can only get from playing that event. I think that's a really cool idea that I'd like to see repeated, but only if there's only 3 or 4 seasonal events a year. Like maybe, again, one a season. It seems to be that's how they like to close it out. Because like you said, it kind of draws those of us who are lapsed back in. An excuse for some of us to spend money that are really bad with our money. Those of us
wait
who
a minute.
have
Hey, wait a minute. That was a comment on me, okay?
Sure. It's a comment on a lot of us. I like the seasonal events, but again, like if it's going to require too much rework on some of these, maybe just take them out of the game like you did Crimson Days. I think it was starting to feel a little overstuffed. I still think it feels a little overstuffed. With Guardian games, Solstice, Moments of Triumph, Dawning, and Festival of the Lost, I think that's equates out to 1 per season, with Moments kind of being an overarching thing. But Solstice is usually so closely tied to Moments of Triumph. Who knows how they're going to handle that?
I like the concept of possibly reworking 1 a year if possible. I
would prefer to keep Moments of Triumph over Solstice, personally. I like Solstice. That's probably my favorite event every year because so many of my friends who are lapsed come back, but I've done the aerial zone for 2 years now. I really don't want to do it again. It's hard as, well, it's not hard, but it's annoying as hell to traverse. It's simply not fun.
Well, you're not good with jumping puzzles, so that makes sense.
I am good with jumping puzzles, actually. Thank you very much. I just don't like how you have to go so, like, you have to keep going up. It's not even a puzzle. You're having to jump straight up, and it's very annoying. It's time. Not a huge fan. Not a massive fan. People dip in and out. It's terrible matchmaking. It's only fun with friends. Dawning is something I can do on my own. I can go do on my own time. Festival of the Lost, I can pretty much load in reliably with anybody, and they're going to be doing it. They're not going to ditch as soon as they finish their objective. Yeah. Guardian games, you can explore and do at your own pace and whatnot. I like the addition of the class-specific strikes. I'd like to see class-specific Crucible too, like a 3v3v3 mode, maybe.
Nope. I'm good.
I think that'd be great.
I'm good on that because I do not want a fucking all hunter Crucible match. I mean, that's basically,
you already have that. It's called Trials of Osiris.
I was gonna say that's basically what it is right now. Yeah, take stasis out of it and I'll be fine.
All right, so everyone, if you have any comments or hot takes on seasons, on seasonal events, seasonal challenges, the loot you get from them, the grind, the bounties, etc., please email us at towercasuals@gmail.com or hit me on Twitter to let me know exactly what you think. Be a part of the show. We're going to shift into our last thing for the night, which could be Lore Corner.
Yeah.
And this week's Lore Corner, this is one I almost picked this one for last week's guessing game with you and Joe. For the record, it got cut off. If you didn't read those show notes, last week's answer was Bombardiers.
I think that you purposefully spiked the encoder so that you could hide the fact that I actually guessed it.
You did guess it on your third guess. Let the record show NerdGeneralist did win.
Don't say that like that's some put down. You guessed it on your third guess. How many exotics are there? There are so many. I guessed it. That's an achievement. I'm going to clap for myself.
I'm glad I can't hear your clapping.
That's the excellent background noise reduction of Discord for you.
So this is Divinity. Calibrate reality, seek inevitability, embrace or embody divinity. Lisbon 13 looked back towards where they had left yard arm 4. Separating the team always felt wrong, but Rekina needed uninterrupted time to confer with the senior Sybil. And if the Vex detected their crash landing in the Black Garden, Yard Arm 4 would give them that time. You'll have to move quickly, the Sybil said to Rekina. Lisbon 13 shared her secret channel. Rekina trusted him. The Vanguard have discovered that our order persists, as Osiris predicted. They'll send a fire team after us then, and after any other cryptocrons that they learn of. But your path is more dangerous than most. The Circle has foreseen many fire teams following in your footsteps. You can find the knowledge the Order seeks at the tree. Can? Not will? For the first time, Rekina sounded concerned. The Circle has had limited success in piercing the veil that surrounds the Black Garden, so the Order offers no certainties. They say that a certain group of Guardians will discover secrets about the origin of the Black Garden at the tree. The One Rhematic Circle foresees no reason why it will not be the Kentark 3. Nor can I, but there is another threat in the tapestry. Entwined with this one, the Vex or some fractal faction of them worship or honor a divinity there. The Black Heart? It was destroyed. Yes, but this is something different. An object, something like a sacred relic. It is important to the Vex for reasons we have not yet fathomed. The Circle has determined that it is dangerous. A Vex weapon? Perhaps. The Sybil sounded annoyed at the interruption. Rekina. The Circle concluded that it is a danger to you. To me. But then why send me on this mission? When the Circle dreamed of the object, you were beside it. All right. We'll see what fate we will find ourselves in. Sybil. Rekina paused a long while. I don't know that we'll see each other again. The veil around the Black Garden, the influence of the Vex, they make such matters difficult to know. I choose to believe we will meet again. Then I won't say goodbye, Rekina said and closed the channel. Rekina stood, eyes closed for a time. Lisbon 13 waited. Lisbon, when we find it, she said, opening her eyes, you should carry it. The object? This divinity? I can think of no one whom I'd trust more with it than you. So this is pretty clearly a reference to a fire team that is attempting to breach the garden. Quite clearly. I'm curious if this is a reference to something that's going to come around in the future, maybe come back up with the Vaults of Glass, because the cryptochromes aren't really talked about in the game. This is kind of the first reference we have to them, and I'm not really sure. Like the Onromantic Circle, Onromantic. I don't really know how to pronounce that. It's very strange. What any of that means as well. But what do you think? What do you think about this?
I like that lore entry, and just as you were reading it, it makes me want to go back in and reread it a few times and kind of dive into some of the like subsequent lore around Garden specifically. Mm-hmm. It's definitely a section of the Destiny lore that I know I like comparatively little about. But I just want to say how like excited I am that we're gonna get hopefully some more good Vex lore coming soon. Hopefully with Vault and all that stuff.
So I mean, we know that in the garden. So the Garden of Salvation Armor tells the story of how Lisbon eventually will turn on Rekina and Yardarm. And each of the armor sets gives us a different perspective. The Hunter set specifically tells us the story from Lisbon's perspective. The Warlock is Rekina and Titan is Yardarm. This is our first reference to the darkness in a lot of ways. The Garden of Salvation lore is, because Lisbon embraces that. It's implied that he gets darkness powers. We don't know if that means stasis or another type of the darkness at this point. It's kind of crazy because Lisbon is able to see multitudes of the future and see what Yardarm is going to do, but he couldn't predict what Rekina would do. And Rekina always knew he was a little bit dark, but Lisbon didn't know. But guys, that's going to go ahead and wrap up our lore corner for this episode on Divinity. I do want to go ahead and apologize if you're listening to the very end of this episode. It sounds a little bit different because I had to come in and finish this up solo. Discord dropped multiple times while we were trying to record this. We're trying a new method of recording it since Skype cut out on me really, really badly during the exporting last week. And now we've had a problem with Discord and particularly my internet dropping repeatedly while we were trying to record this. So from myself, from NerdGeneralist, from Corey, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Hopefully our number one Titan is back next week. If not, NerdGeneralist will be joining us back again, and we'll be talking, regardless, we're going to be talking about Grandmasters as kind of the final part of our endgame and like rewards series. I really hope you guys have been enjoying this. Please, as always, feel free to give us your feedback at towercasuals@gmail.com, or you can hit up myself or Corey on Twitter at Josh_Finn with 2 N's, or Corey at I am Corey in HD. And as always, you can find NerdGeneralist on Twitter as at NGeneralist. Corey and I are also on Twitch. You guys know that, though. Twitch.tv/Josh_Finn and Twitch.tv/I am Corey in HD. Thank you so much for joining us. And hopefully that we have this snafu figured out next week. You know, third time's the charm, right? We did like recording on Discord a little bit more, so that may be an avenue we do in the future. And again, as always, you know, you have comments, you have questions about what we've covered the last couple weeks, especially because I know we've done some deep dive topics. Hit us up with what you want. What do you want to see on the show? You know, you can email us, you can email us, you can tweet us, you can DM us. I know our DMs are open. Just let us know. All right. And until next time, we will see you Starside Guardians. Thank you so much.